there, this is Christina Johnson, Certified Transformational Nutrition Coach and owner of Christina Johnson Wellness. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about some of the ways that sugar might be sneaking into your diet without you even really realizing it, and then give you some practical tips on how you can try to minimize that as much as possible. You know, I think we all know that eating too much sugar is not good for us. It causes inflammation in our bodies, and we know that inflammation is the root of so many different diseases. It's highly addictive and can lead to massive sugar cravings, which I think most of us can probably relate to. And these sugar cravings can be really hard to ignore. And then in addition to that, it also messes with our blood sugar levels. It causes the blood sugar to spike up and to crash down, which can lead to feeling tired and being irritable or moody or not thinking clearly. And it also is one of the biggest factors that leads to weight gain. So we know sugar is not good for us, but yet I think most experts estimate that we're probably consuming about 3 times more sugar than what is recommended for us every day. So just think about that. Think about the cumulative effects of eating 3 times the amount of sugar that's recommended every single day. You know, it's no wonder that we have such big issues with things like obesity and heart disease and diabetes. And so it's really important if you are wanting to make changes to improve your health, to lose weight, to have more energy, just to feel better, then we really need to start looking at how much sugar we're consuming and begin cutting back on that. But one of the biggest issues is that, sugar just sneaks into so many places that we don't realize or think about. And so we end up just eating a lot more sugar than what we even know we're doing. So really the first step to help this, I believe, is to start by becoming very aware of how much sugar you're consuming and where it's sneaking into your diet. And, just some common sources of foods that sugar is snuck into. It's the whole category of processed foods. We know that it's hard to find processed foods that don't have any added sugar to them or artificial sugars. So, a lot of times they're in things like sauces, ketchups, barbecue sauce, teriyaki sauce. They are in a lot of salad dressings. That's why salad dressings taste so good when you go out to eat, is because there's usually sugar in them. They're also in things like, I'm trying to even think, the sauces, salad dressings, pizza sauces, marinara sauces often have sugar added to them. So there's just, a lot of those condiments and sauces will have added sugars. In addition to that, you have to be really careful when you're looking at anything that's labeled as low fat, reduced fat, or some kind of diet food. Because you know what happens when they take the fat out of the food? It doesn't taste very good anymore. So what they have to do instead is to add sugar back into it. And so most low fat and diet foods usually have a decent amount of sugar. So anytime you see that kind of label on a box or anything that you want to buy that it's healthy because it's low fat, I would really kind of use that as a warning sign to see how much sugar is actually in it. And then another big source of sugar for a lot of Americans is in what we drink. You think about the fruit juices, soda, sweet teas, all of our coffee drinks with sugar added to them. And unfortunately, liquid sugar is usually, a little more problematic for people than other types of sugar, because in the liquid form, there's no fiber or, a lot of the necessary nutrients to slow down the absorption of that sugar. So it can spike your blood sugar levels even faster, which leads to more of a crash. And that's a huge problem for people. So, even in orange juice, you think, I'm going to start my day with a glass of orange juice. It sounds like a fairly healthy thing to do in the morning. But 1 glass of orange juice can have 5.5 teaspoons of sugar. And that is more than what women are recommended to have in an entire day. So by having 1 glass of orange juice in the morning, you are drinking more sugar than what you need for the entire day. And so no wonder it's so easy to consume more sugar than we need. So that's kind of the first step, is just to be aware of these categories of food that sugar kind of tends to sneak into without us even realizing it. The next step then is to really start looking at the nutrition labels. And I know when I was a dieter, I read nutrition labels like crazy. But what I looked at was how many calories does it have, how many grams of fat, is there saturated fat, is there trans fat, and sometimes I'd look at sodium, and that's what I focused on. But what I would encourage you to do is kind of ignore those numbers. I mean, honestly, I don't even give those a glance anymore. But what I focus on is the ingredient list. So I might look at, the grams of sugar, but more important is really looking at what is in the ingredients. So go down to where the ingredient list is and look through that list and see, if sugar is listed in there. And one thing to keep in mind, a couple tips when you're doing this, is that first of all, food manufacturers are required to list ingredients in order of the amount that's present in the food product. So, if wheat is the main ingredient, then it has to be listed first, and then it'll just go down in order from there. So you know that if sugar is listed in the first 2 or 3 ingredients, then that's one of the main ingredients in that food, and so that's probably a warning sign to kind of stay away from it. Another tip, though, to keep in mind is that, unfortunately, it doesn't have to be labeled just as sugar. It would be nice if it did, because that would be nice and simple. You'd be able just to see, okay, there's sugar in this. But there are, some people estimate like more than 40 or 50 different names for sugar. So you might see it listed as dextrose or fruit juice or sucrose or glucose or maltodextrin. There are so many different names that sugar could be hidden under. And so it's really important to kind of get to know what are the different names that it could be listed as. And so I have a handout that I often share with clients where I list 45 different names of sugar, because it's hard to share it all with you here and you probably wouldn't remember anyway. But I would be happy if it's helpful for you to send you that list of the 45 different names for sugar, just so you can kind of glance over it and just start to become familiar with some of them. So if you're interested in that list, I put a link in the description of this video. It should be right above the video, but it's ChristinaJohnsonWellness.com/names of sugar, all one word, so names of sugar. So if you go there, just let me know what email address you want me to send that list to, and I will send that right over to you. So that's, kind of the second tip that I have, is to really start familiarizing yourself with the different names that sugar could be hidden under. But the third thing then to keep in mind is this. So sometimes if a food manufacturer was to list just sugar, it would have to be at the top of the list. So what they sometimes do is, instead of using just sugar, they'll use like 2 or 3 different forms of sugar so that they can be broken out into different names. So for example, there might be fruit juice, brown rice syrup, and dextrose. And so they're all sugar, but now instead of having to be listed at the beginning of the list because it's in such a large amount, then because it's broken down, they can be listed further down the list. So it doesn't seem like there's as much sugar added. And so that's just another way that you just have to be really careful when you're looking at food labels and just have to know what you're looking for. So those are just a few tips that I have for you when you're reading the ingredient label and really trying to, just pay attention to how much sugar is being added to the processed foods and drinks that you're buying. Now, I know that this can feel really overwhelming. And I know from personal experience, because when you start to look at all this, you think, well, what can I eat then? What can I eat that doesn't have sugar in it? Or how am I going to get by without some of my favorite foods? And I know it's challenging, but I can promise you that it is completely worth the effort. It is amazing how much better you can feel when you start getting rid of this extra sugar from your diet. I see it all the time with the clients I work with. They have way more energy. They have, better digestion, less bloating, less heartburn. They lose weight, easier. I was working with a client yesterday who told me she's most proud of the fact that she's been able to lose so much weight without counting calories, without feeling hungry. And it's just because she's gotten a lot of this sugar and processed food out of her diet. And in addition, when you get rid of the sugar, your mood can be so much more stable and just better overall. You can think clearer and just feel more focused and motivated. So I just, I want to acknowledge that yes, it's a big change and it can be overwhelming, but it truly can make a huge difference in how you feel on a day-to-day basis. And so, if you want any support with that, I'm always here to help with you through that process. When I'm working with clients in my Sugar Reset program, we go step by step through the process of making these changes. And we don't make all the changes at once. Each week, we focus on 1 or 2 things that we can put into place, create a habit around, and then just build on it from there. And I think this approach allows you to be able to make changes in a way that feels sustainable and that you can stick with long term. So if you're interested at all in receiving support with, making these eating changes and, you know, trying to cut out the sugar, then feel free to reach out to me. You can just put a comment below or send me a private message and we can find a time to talk to just see if, you know, health coaching would be a good fit for you. So I'm also curious though, before we go, if you would just put in the comments, what is one thing that you can do to start cutting back your sugar today? So it's not about getting rid of all sugar starting today. It's not about throwing away all the sauces you have that are filled with sugar, but what's just one thing that you can do to start reducing the amount of sugar you eat on a daily basis? So if you would share that in the comments, I would love to see what your ideas are on that. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments as well. So, you know, I look forward to kind of seeing what types of sugar reduction strategies you can come up with, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.